There we go. We're back up now. Not sure what happened.
I was just getting ready to say "Stay sexy, San Diego" and sign off, but all right.
Not sure what the heck happened. Computer just shut down, plugged in, but gotta love technology.
Well, we were on Mudsock, HSE's Fishers. Next Tuesday night, the much-awaited battle.
Yes.
Between the two Hamilton rivals. Anything you want to elaborate on that? Any bogus comments?
I've been waiting to really push Fishers in the direction of the win over HSE. I'm not feeling it right now. Fishers are struggling right now. They've lost to Brownsburg multiple times.
They're not playing Brownsburg.
I know, but we've lost too many times to them. I'm really.
We've and now you're on the staff.
I was feeling it. Heading into the Mudsock, I was ready to make Jason really mad. You know what? Even though I didn't get a ticket from HSC, I'm getting from Fishers. I feel like HSC has the favorite in this game.
You think?
Yeah.
They're undefeated. They're the best team in the state of Indiana.
I wanted
to
pick the upset, but I can't.
Folks, he's a little rattled by the technical difficulties. He usually would be going off.
Not happening tonight.
Yeah, that should be a fun match. It's one of those ones where all year long I've hated that fans aren't there, but you know what, man? It will still have emotion. It will still have a real competitive flair to it. Fishers, do they have the ability to pull the upset? Yeah, they're going to have to take care of the ball, and they're going to have to play really clean. HSE, the better ball handling unit. HSE really, really strong on the pins in the middle of the court. It's going to be that would be a tough pull for the Fisher squad that's been really up and down the last couple of weeks to beat an HSE team that's been by and far the best team in the state of Indiana all year long.
Correct. But the one thing you got to love about it is one of the best rivals in high school volleyball right now. So
yeah, and the neat thing is on one pin you got Jada Allen, who's wrapping up a really good high school career, and on the other pin you got Lauren Harden, who's just starting off her career, and that should be entertaining. But nonetheless, great athletes, great play, great setting for a volleyball match.
One other game we were going to talk about, Battle of the South. We always love this game. Lagodi 17-2 versus Springs Valley 17-2. Springs Valley will be up in our neck of the woods this weekend at the Class A Showdown.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they, I think they would probably be one of the favorites in that one with the LCC crew and the Cowan crew.
I think Springs Valley right now is the best of those teams.
Yeah.
I think Springs Valley's bites off a better schedule than any of the small schools in the state, and Lagodi is, traditionally they're top of the food chain, but Springs Valley probably a little much for them.
I think so. Get into the next part. Going to talk a little bit. We'll let Josh pull some questions here in a second, but we'll talk about the next part first, and we're going to talk about Raymond James down the stretch.
I like down the stretch since the Derby just finished.
Yep, and we're talking about it. Like you talked about, we're getting through September right now, getting ready to get into October, the best time, getting into the sectionals and everything else, and see where the world's at. First one, long shots. Any class, doesn't matter. Give me one, maybe two teams that you see that could be a long shot making a run to a state finals, like the Chitards a few years. It's been a while now, actually, not a few years ago. When they were 500 heading into the tournament, made a great run.
Well, we talked about a good Ron Colley team, a team that's shaking some people up. They're a team you got to keep an eye on down the stretch. I think Center Grove is probably trending as hot as anybody. I don't know if they're a complete team. They're a team, but I think when you're talking long shots, I think that whole crew of northern teams, Munster, LaPorte, Crown Point, Penn, I would not be shocked to see one of those teams make a run.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. The other team still is that I think that's could shake some people up is McCutcheon. When they get enough games under their belt, young setter still trying to figure out the high school game a little bit from the standpoint of she needs to play. She's going to be great. We talked about Shondell at length last week, and I think she's going to be a great player. She just needs an opportunity to prove it on a big stage. I think that she is capable of doing big things, and she's got Chacon playing with her. And arguably, you could argue she's the best player in the state.
Correct.
My long shots would be the that quad from the north and McCutcheon.
Yep. Kind of October blues. With the COVID quarantines, we're getting close to the sectional now, and I know we're going to talk a little more about it later. But we're getting to that point where, down the stretch here, what about if you get it now? With the COVID.
Well, I think the COVID blues are real now.
Yeah.
I think that a couple of things. You got to wonder what the state provisions are going to be. We saw where the state just came out and gave you an unlimited roster for the sectionals, which tends to tell me that they're going to go headlong into this thing, and as long as you can find 6 bodies, you're good to go. So you can put 50 kids on a roster now, and you just got to be able to put it together and put 6 guys on the floor. So I think they're going to weather the storm. And, part of me said all along, you either say no or go, and I've always thought you just put your head down and burrow through, and it sounds like that's what the IHSAA is thinking. The problem is this. If you have games left on your schedule, and let's say somebody tests COVID positive tomorrow or Friday, based on the current rules, 14 days plus the practices, if there are any matches left on your schedule that to be played, you will not be able to play in it. Sectionals are done. So you're seeing things now. Newcastle has a suspected case. They went ahead and quarantined it already, just with the suspected case, so that they will be eligible, ready to go. I think that you're going to look at it. There's a lot of kids that are making provisions to, not be around. I think that the biggest threat right now for October Blues is COVID, because depending on when you get it, and depending on what the state decides and how they're going to handle this, your season could end in the most unceremonious of fashions. I know there's hurt kids. A lot of kids had set their sights on breaking school records or setting this record or that record. It's not going to happen. You're looking at, a couple of teams we're talking about,
McCutcheon's played 9 matches.
McCutcheon's played 9 matches. You're not going to break school records playing 9 matches.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the big thing. I think the October Blues is going to be COVID. Does it gun down anybody going down the stretch? The other fear I have, and I would say this as a coach, be very careful with the vernacular you use as a coach, because you can't say, if you get sick, just don't come to school, or don't get tested, or don't. Everyone wants to finish the season, but no one wants to ruin their career. And I think right now you've got to be very intelligent in how you voice your opinion in regards to reporting COVID cases and whatnot. And that scares me as well, that someone's going to be taken out of context.
Yep.
And it could cause troubles.
Yep. And last one I threw out there, virtual finish. I know we've been in the virtual world for the past half a year.
Yeah.
And but you're starting to see, and we've talked to some athletes that have decided to go the virtual route for school.
Well, certain teams, coaches have told them, you're just go total virtual and create kind of like the NBA bubble. This is a time where you're going to have to really circle the wagons and keep everybody close to home and tight. There's several athletes that have talked to me and said they're not going to school. They're just going all virtual just to stay safe. Well, it doesn't impact, their teammates have still got to be intelligent. I think you're going to see more and more people go virtual. The other thing I think you may see down the stretch, you may see people canceling matches. Just dropping out of matches for various reasons, because you may want to just make sure you keep it all together for the tournament. I know that Newcastle had to drop 2 matches down the stretch because of they went ahead and quarantined still waiting for the test. But, I think a lot of these guys are worried about just getting something right down the stretch, days before the tournament, and being eradicated immediately from it. So I think you're going to see more virtual. I think you'll probably see more teams bail on competitions.
Yeah.
And I think it may be smart.
Yep. Got any questions, Joshua?
2 questions. One coming from me and one coming from JR. My first question is going into this home stretch with those potentials of maybe canceling matches and kind of just practicing. How do you keep those teams locked in and focused on the task at hand, especially when you may have people who don't care as much about high school volleyball as some of the other kids on the team?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a big advantage for some coaches. When I looked down the list, Steph Bloom is really good at keeping her kids engaged. They're battling against a culture. They're battling against excellence. Their battle was never against Newcastle or HSE. Yorktown's battle has always been against perfection. I think that she's one that comes to mind. Pinard comes to mind to be able to keep people focused and locked in. Parika is another that really does a nice job of that. Now there's some guys that are really motivated by play and really want to gauge themselves or judge themselves based on others in competition. And that may not happen. So I think that the real key now is for people to kind of find a way to compete, not necessarily against, don't look for results, look to gain in the process. I think you want to develop a process-oriented team, and results will take care of themselves. You don't need wins and losses. What does a team get by going and playing somebody that they would easily beat in 3-0 and run the risk? I talked to a young lady the other day that he had to cancel a match, and risk and reward. What kind of reward do you get by playing a team that can't make you better? But the risk is massive. And so I don't have a problem with training right now. I think that that's what I would do.
Yep.
And then the next question from JR would be, if you had to choose a player of the week, who would it be?
For this past week?
Yes.
Maybe Mabry Schaffmaster. 46 kills in a 5-set match against Dwinger. Out of all of them, she played the highest level of competition. Hudson would come to mind. Had a really good weekend in that same exact event. Stinson's been a backbone of that team all the way through at Yorktown, but they didn't play nearly as tough a competition. I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be Mabry Schaffmaster. I mean, anytime you record 46 kills in a 5-set match, I've got to give kudos. And she had 2 really good matches on Saturday.
Yeah. And another one I would throw in that, not to that same extent, but you talked about Katie Iganoff. I mean, she had another great game against Lawrence North a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
Went 5, and I think she ended up almost right around 30 kills. So
yeah.
Great outing by her, too. But we'll go ahead and get into the next portion, and we're going to get into players to watch. So getting into that, Mike, go ahead and knock it off here.
All young players this week.
Yeah, sophomores.
All sophomores. Not in any particular order. Chloe Chacon.
Yep.
Uncommitted in this day and age. Probably the only reason she's uncommitted is because of COVID. Arguably, as good a player, maybe the best player in the state of Indiana. Very, very gifted, very high-flying kid. Very enjoyable to watch. Game changer. She's what's called a game wrecker in the college world, and meaning that she can wreck your game plan in a flat-out hurry, and you have to prepare for her. And Chloe Chacon out of McCutcheon would be my first.
Yeah, almost 500 kills, 479, 31 aces, 19 blocks, 303 digs. That was as a freshman. And keep in mind, she had Brooke Humphreys and a lot of other players that were on that team last year on that McCutcheon team that took off. So almost 500 kills.
Yeah, you're looking at a kid, if COVID didn't gun down most of their season this year, would be on track to get 2,000 kills in a 4-year career, which is really crazy impressive. That's neat.
Very. Next one out of Brownsburg.
Quincy Thomas. And Brownsburg is good. Brownsburg is a team that we've had on our radar. Definitely on Fisher's radar.
And they would be a top 10 team if they didn't have
really
a couple.
Up and down.
Yeah.
But Quincy Thomas, outside hitter, once again uncommitted, probably because of COVID as well. big banger, and is really an integral part of a Brownsburg team that is starting to show that they may be one of the best offensive teams in the state. They've got to shore up some defensive issues and ball control issues, but a very good team.
Yeah, 263 kills, 198 digs, 17 aces, 13 blocks last year. Next one, you hear this last name on a regular basis.
Love it. Grace Perica, coach's kid, coach's family. You know, the Perica family is sewn into the soul of coaching in the state of Indiana, in football and volleyball and a lot of other sports. Grace, a great quarterback for this team, young, and is going to be dynamite. A lot of people believe she may be the best setter in the state by the time she's done. She's just a kid who has great passion, great energy, but she's got great game savvy because of the fact that her mom knows the game as well as anybody in the state.
Yep. Last year, like you talked about, was behind an older setter and everything. 34 aces, 170 digs, 69 assists. I think she's over 200 already this year. So, attacking them up. We know we have a lot of Fishers fans on here on a regular basis.
Well, Ava Vickers. You know, Ava's a very underrated player. Still a little bit raw. Still a little bit rangy in the sense that she's got a lot of improving to do. But Ava Vickers' upside is crazy good. Really a student of the game, a fast release off the floor and a quick arm. Enable her to be a very dynamic middle. Now, the Fishers team ball handling hasn't gotten her the chance to get the ball as much as she could and should. But she's another uncommitted athlete, a middle hitter, that I think you're going to see explode during this club season and next high school season.
Yeah, and she'll have to be a ginormous role next year with the Fishers group that's leaving.
Yes.
But close to 100 kills, 97 last year, 3 aces, 84 digs, 84 blocks and 15 digs. Last, a little back row guy, we haven't talked about them in this one.
Well, you know, Wapahani's having an outstanding season, 13-1, and probably a tougher schedule would be in the hunt. I still think them and Heritage Christian will show down for the 2A, but if that does occur, Reese Baker is going to be a big reason why. Reese is a little libero, fiery, great competitor, maybe as good an all-around athlete as you're going to have on the floor, but has developed a nice touch on the ball. But her will to defend and pursue relentlessly has been her hallmark quality.
Yep. 40 kills, 76 aces, 3 blocks, and 299 digs and 9 assists. So, and she's right on pace. You know, she's really probably going to be more than that, even with COVID and everything else, dig wise. Any questions, Joshua?
Got none right now.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Alrighty.
All right, going to talk the next one. We're going to talk about the old phone zone.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit tonight. Try to get a little bit different opinion for you guys.
Mikey, what's up?
Hey, Finney, how you doing, buddy?
All right, brother. How are you?
Good. Got you on this little podcast that Randy ropes me into, so I wanted to get a little input for the folks that are watching and listening. Tom Finnicle, really one of the hallmark coaches of our state, one of a lifetime coach, and one of the best friends a man could ever have. But he's also really one of the longevity-wise, one of the ADs that's been around this thing longer than most. And Tom, just wanted to get your thoughts on the COVID as we move forward towards tournament time. I know that you chatted a little with Randy, and what are some thoughts that you have, or some things that we may see coming IHSAA wise?
Well, Mike, thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that, brother. And from you, that means an awful lot, man. It really does. And I'm glad to be here this evening. What I guess I can give you, and I don't know what Randy's already and you've already spoken of, but I can tell you that kids that are out because of a COVID scenario, there's a different number, and it's all based on the number of practices that they miss. So if they miss anywhere up to 4 to 10 practices, they're going to need 4 practices to get back in. And if they miss more than 10, they're going to need 6 practices, not contest dates, but it's based on the number of practice dates. So that's an issue with kids who are being quarantined and getting back into the game and trying to get back. As far as the IHSAA stands for the tournament, Mike, they've not released anything to us yet. I don't know that they've crossed that bridge where like Randy and I talked today, you win a sectional, you don't play for a week, and all of a sudden you get quarantined. Do they take the team to finish second? I don't know what they're going to do. It's right now. I think it's kind of a crapshoot, and it's a wait and see scenario. But doggone, there's a lot of bridges that have not yet been crossed that I hope they're thinking about. I believe that they're thinking about it. Yeah. They'll have a worst case scenario situation taken care of by the time the tournament starts. But it's promising that the governor is taking us to stage 5.
I did not see that. Well, I agree with you. I think that sometimes when I agree that they do have a plan in place in mind. I oftentimes think that when you hesitate to share your plan early, it's because it's going to really ruffle some feathers with a lot of folks. One of the things, Tom, when you referenced earlier this morning about unlimited roster size, what does that make you think may be the plan?
Well, if you lose part of your team, you'll still have a team. And I think that's why they've opened up so much. Football's always been that scenario. You could list 80, 90, 100 guys, whatever you had. But volleyball and cross country and girls golf and boys tennis, those sports have always been, and soccer, those sports have always been limited to the amount of kids or the number of kids that they could put on their sectional tournament entry. But this year, I think with the thought that, you could lose some kids to the COVID scenario, that they're going to allow unlimited number of kids on your rosters for the sectional. Now, for volleyball, for example, you'll still only get to dress 14 as a max, but you'll be able to list 30 kids if you've got 30 kids in your program.
Wow. How does that impact a program like yours that is much like the program I had at Wapahani, smallish, 18 to 20 kids? I mean, does that change anything?
No, not for us, Mike. You're right. Instead of putting just 14 or 15 kids on, we'll keep everybody.
Yeah.
We'll keep all those kids around, and that's always the best way anyway, I think, with small-sized programs. Keep all those kids in. They're a part of the program, and any extra day of practice they can get is a good day.
Has there been any inclination or any rumblings that there will be an announcement anytime soon?
Nothing that I've been told. I mean, got elected to the board of directors last year, so sometimes I get some inside information. That's happening right now.
Well, if the board of directors doesn't know exactly where this thing's headed, then it's fair that this is going to be held under wraps. I wouldn't be surprised to see that information come out right around the pairings.
I would think that's probably a great place to release that, at least as far as the plans from the IHSAA. And again, he doesn't have to bounce everything off of us. Those guys have been running that boat down there for 100-plus years.
Yeah.
But, again, you're right, Mike. I think that's probably it. I think releasing it at the same time you do the pairing show is probably a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, that way everybody's got equal footing, and you limit the amount of grief and griping. Regardless of what they do, Tommy, they're going to take heat. I've been adamant about either you say no or you just go, and my personality is you barrel through, and I get the feeling that that's what they're thinking when you unlimited squad sizes. I think that they're just going to be willing to weather the storm and go. Once we got into it, we kind of made our bed, so it'll be interesting.
Mike, you hit it on the head. I believe it. The IHSAA's got the blessing of the governor. Yeah. As long as we can maintain safety and people are following the mask and social distancing things, the push is let's have a tournament. And if it's your first game of the season, that's great. Dive in there and let's go. But they're going to have a tournament.
Wow, well, that's awesome. Hey, Tom, what were the results of I thought they were voting a month ago or so, talking about seeding sectionals. Did anything come of that?
It got voted down. The blind, I think the feeling of that group was that the blind draw is still the best way. And I know especially in the sectional at Yorktown and Newcastle and all those heavies are in around your area, Mike.
Yeah.
That's a tough draw if you draw one of those guys night one, especially if you're having a good year. You better bring all the guns you got and you better shoot them.
Nope, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, but, I think it got voted down because, and I know I think it's the Z system, or I don't know. I try not to keep up with that because the rating things really don't mean anything until the end of the year. You're the number one or you're not. So those ranking them based on strength of schedule and other stuff, I think it looks really good. But there's always that chance, and I think you got to make your kids believe you've always got a shot as long as you're still in the games. So let's just keep working hard and try to do what we can do and make sure if you can knock somebody off, it's a great night.
Well, I tell you what, if Southwood High School can win their last game of the year, drinks are on me. So we'll be
and
all
I'll
right.
be happy to enjoy it with you, Michael, I swear.
Hey, you've got some fandom here. I'm looking. I don't really follow this live chat thing. It's much like Twitter and all the other social medias in the world that I have no clue about. But I do see that Nick Cox wanted to make sure that we told you hello.
Hey.
So we may have
How you
to.
doing, Nick?
We may have to have you on the show more often. You've improved ratings by 10% already. Well, Tommy, thanks, man, for your time. How's IWU football treating you?
They were supposed to have played last Friday night, and little Jeffrey was going to get some PT, baby. He was ready to go. He was the number 3 corner, and he was ready, and he was amped up. And Trine pulled the plug on him like 8:30 in the morning on Friday, and he was decimated because it's his last year, and he was amped up and ready to go. And that's in that scenario, you just tell him, Jerry, just keep working hard. Things are going to roll your direction. Just keep grinding. Just keep plugging away, and that's all you can do. You can control what you can control, and that's it.
Well, your background's very similar to mine, and football's a different animal in the sense that you do get jacked up because you get one chance a week to show what you're about. And, you add to that a senior season. Well, pass on my blessings to your son and good luck fighting COVID through the football season. And as always, Tommy, I love you and thanks for helping us out tonight.
Mikey, love you too, brother. Take care of yourself. Rando.
Always a pleasure.
Good to talk to you too, baby.
See you, buddy.
See you, Tommy.
You guys have a great evening.
You too.
It looks like we got a question.
I'm going to make it a question here.
All right.
Pick you guys' brains a little bit. Nick Cox chimed in earlier. A little tidbit of information.
One of the real good guys in volleyball too, by the way.
Oh yeah. Center Grove has not lost a conference match since 2013. 49 match winning streak. They beat Lawrence North 15-13 last night.
I saw that.
He said they even went undefeated when Carmel had Carly.
That's true.
Which is tough. Can somebody beat those guys?
Yeah, I do believe they can. I think that, in a season where Nick should know it as well as anybody. That Lawrence North team has been is up and down and unpredictable as any of the other teams in the state. There are moments where that Lawrence North team is capable of beating anybody. And then there's other moments where they've just beaten themselves. Because of the unpredictability, I said last week, I think the uncertainty that rules these kids' minds right now is interfering with consistent volleyball. I think that what has to happen for someone to beat Center Grove is to come out and play consistent volleyball from start to finish. The Lawrence North team is very capable athletically and coaching-wise of pulling off a win like that. I think that streak could very well come to an end. It's just a matter of somebody playing 25 consecutive points, decent, not great points, not elite points, just elite effort and concentrated focus. And, we saw even Yorktown against Newcastle was up and down, a little sloppy, which is unheard of. The team that gets this thing cleaned up, that cleans their plate the fastest, is going to be in the hunt. So I think that's a great question, Nick. I believe yes.
And if you're at 15-13, like you always talk about, that's one play.
Yeah.
One play, and you're talking about you winning that.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that spot with Lawrence North.
But hats off, that's unbelievable to have that many games in a row.
It is.
All right. Looks like next part we got coming up, the old year Going to talk about some honorable mentions.
Yeah, some old news in here. Center Grove, who hung on last night and beat Lawrence.
Record-wise in that show, but they have a hard season.
Lawrence North. It's Lawrence North, Center Grove, Fishers, HSE. Mm-hmm. On a regular year, those guys are playing every night. They can lose. Carmel, that whole group plays a schedule that's just brutal. And so at 11-6, I don't give a darn about records this year. I mean, we've got McCutcheon still in the rankings at 5-4 for God's sakes. 11-6 is reputable, but they're moving. They're on the way up. That Lawrence North team is a very good team. I talked to a couple of their kids every now and then when they come by the facility, and I tell you, they're spunky kids, but they're very athletic. They've got 3-4 kids that if you give them a chance to out-athlete you, they will do it in a heartbeat. I like them. I like Lawrence North, and that win at Center Grove last night over Lawrence North, plus the win over McCutcheon, puts me in the honorable mention area.
Yep. All right.
Heritage Christian still sitting there, and man, I'm just waiting for that one match where I can say I'm pushing the button. Ron Colley may be that match.
Yep.
They're a team that all they've done is win, and all they've done is what's expected of them. Snyder, Colvin, the whole gang, they're very, very gifted. They just need a big win, but they're an honorable mention.
Yep. And then one more up north.
Penn.
Yep.
Penn's the fourth of the four right now in my book, but Penn is a very, whenever we can call Penn the fourth of the four, that tells you there's a great season going on up north. And 18-3, and they've only lost to those guys in that quad, so they're good.
Yeah, the guys above them.
Yeah.
All right, talking about number 10, staying put.
Bloomington South, much for the same reason at 14-1 that I keep Heritage Christian right where they're at. Bloomington South hasn't been tested in a big way. Eugene Kim's group took down a Bloomington North team, but they're still in tied there for 10 with Crown Point.
Yep.
I put Crown Point there. I like the Crown Point team. I'm not going to hesitate to tell you that Angie Duncan does as good a job as any coach in the state. They're a team that has state championship resume. They've been there, and they've got kids that are athletic enough to do what you need to do to get where you got to go. But once again, those guys up north, for some reason, I don't know what's going on, they are playing matches. All these teams have more than 20 matches under their belt. McCutcheon still doesn't have 10.
Or HSE.
Or HSE.
Yeah.
HSE's best team in the state right now. Has played 9 times.
Yeah.
And, these guys are playing against each other a lot. So I like that team at 10.
Yep.
And could move up.
Definitely. All right, number 9. Probably the lowest they've been in a very, very long time.
Ever.
Maybe ever, yeah.
Ever. I looked at it, ever. Beat Floyd Central, beat Male, beat Christian Academy of Louisville, but then they lost to Mercy, no shame. Lost to Assumption, everybody does. Lost to Newcastle and McCutcheon. There's no shame there either. Newcastle's a very good team. Newcastle's not in that top 2 right now, but they're a very good team. And I've told you, McCutcheon's one of my long shots. That team could shake you up. And if you're in a tight match and they're in the right rotation, if you're in set 5 and McCutcheon's in the right rotation, I'll take them.
Oh yeah.
I'll take them. I'll spin the wheel with those guys. And so not a bad thing. Providence has got to rebound. They got to figure out how to pass. Their ball control's killing them a little bit right now, and they've got to get that figured out. They've got a great coach, and they will.
Yep. All right, number 8.
Fishers. It's really weird. They losing to Brownsburg a couple times in the last couple of weeks is really kind of, I don't know if I get it. And that's, none of it makes sense. Brownsburg loses to Silver Springs, gets swept.
Silver Creek, yeah.
Silver Creek, and then you turn around and take down Fishers twice. And Fishers they're talented.
They got Brownsburg beat down Newcastle.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Fishers got to figure out, what their identity is. What's their mantra? I've never really seen, what is their culture? What are they going to be known for? At the end of the season, if I said Yorktown, people are going to say ball control defense.
Yep.
If I said the old Cathedral teams, you would say net play. If I said Burris, you would say no errors. All of those historic teams. What will Fisher's mantra be at the end of the season? And they've really have no identity still. And they need to discover what that identity is, and they probably need to discover that by Tuesday night for Mudsock. Mudsock's important, but you really want to win the last time you see each other in sectionals. But Fisher's is 8.
Yep. Number 7.
McCutcheon 5-4. I'm a firm believer of 2 things. 1, they've played a tough schedule. 2, they've not had any consistency in their schedule. They played, they went up here, they played, then they didn't play, then they played, then they didn't play. That's tough on young players, and their talent is young. Chacon is a sophomore, Shondell's a freshman. They're young, and so the consistency issues right now are causing them problems. At 5-4, people could argue they don't deserve to be there. I'll put my money on those guys at the end of the season still being the hunt.
Oh yeah, it's like you talked about. I mean, they play a tough schedule. It's like
Yep.
people complaining when the SEC football teams are
Yep.
20th and they're 5-5.
Yeah, their losses last
Yeah.
week were to Center Grove, who arguably is one of the hottest teams in the state.
Correct.
Dwinger, who can now lay claim to, I think, is the best 3A team in the
Yes.
state.
All right, number 6, moving up.
LaPorte. They beat Crown Point.
Closing out on 20 games.
Yeah, they beat Crown Point, and they've the only guys they've lost to have been in their quad as well. LaPorte will get a little more of a test as we get moving towards the next couple of weeks. But I like that LaPorte team, and they're part of my northern quad.
Number 5.
Munster didn't play as tough a schedule. They took down Highland and Kankakee Valley, but at 20-2, not only are they on a roll, they probably played more matches than anybody in the state of Indiana. And you're going, what's that even matter? Well, it does matter because they're going to have game savvy when no one else is going to. And they played a pretty tough schedule of northern teams, and they're going to start coming down this way too in the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Number 4.
Dwinger. Dwinger, I said last week if Dwinger could win that tournament, they were going to be my favorite to win the 3A. I think that they're probably my favorite to win 3A. They lost. Game was tied 11-11, and then Newcastle broke away from them in set 5. But I will tell you that Dwinger, when Hudson's in the front row, is capable of playing with anybody in the state. Anybody, even the HSEs and everybody else. When Hudson's in the back row, they've got to shore some of that up. But Hudson is an extremely talented player. We talk about some of the young kids in this state, whether it be Parika, Chacon, Hudson, all the way through.
Yeah.
Shondell, Katie at Center Grove. I mean,
You can go on and on.
yeah,
McMahon.
Yeah, there's just so many good players. But Hudson's a special player. When she's in furrow, she's going to do special things. They're my number 4. They're capable of being in the top of that, beating any of the teams in the top.
Yep.
They're the best 3A team in the state right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think I'm pretty sold on York. I am sold. Yorktown wins the 4A state championship, and the 3A state championship, I think, is doing. Hauser, make sure you get it done. That's all I got to say.
Yes.
3rd.
Newcastle. Newcastle last week, we were throwing dirt on their grave.
Yep.
And then they come back and beat a really good Mount Vernon team. A really good Mount Vernon team. Beat a really good Dwinger team. And beat a historically great Providence team.
Take a few days off now.
Yeah, take a few days off because they're under COVID alert again. And, quite possibly could go into sectionals at 12-4.
Yep.
And which may be more games, it will be more games probably than McCutcheon or HSE get accumulated. So, Newcastle 3, I think there's a gap between 3 and 2 though.
Yeah. And one thing you just hit on too, which is it might be a blessing if you do have to go into COVID right now, and because then your next match is sectionals, but you're going into sectionals healthy.
Yeah.
And you can go in there.
I don't want to use the word blessing in COVID.
I know, but I'm just saying. I mean,
I know.
What? Hey, you'd be 3 days out, and then all of a sudden you get canned from it.
Well, I got you. You're a COVID specialist, and an HSE, anti-HSE specialist. But number 2, Yorktown. Yorktown didn't play the schedule that's going to make me want to move them up anymore. I think that Yorktown and HSE are closer than Newcastle and Yorktown are. I think that really right now those 2 teams have separated from the pack, and the rest of them are pretty tight. But those 2 have broke away. Good win against Avon. Avon's team we've got to start talking a little about. Yeah. Abby Mash is as good as anybody in the state as a pin. But Yorktown disposed of them in 3. And, Yorktown, I think, is capable of beating anybody. And they're, if they can get to the point where they're not capable of beating themselves, then I would put them as the favorite. We'll see if that happens.
Yep. Number 1.
HSEs, they've been there all year long. They've protected their lead. COVID cropped up and took out some big matches for them. My big concern with those guys is that they're not battle ready. and that may reach up and get them. They got a good battle coming up on Tuesday night, which will kind of tell people what they're all about. But HSE right now is by far the best team in the state, and I think that Jason's doing a nice job navigating both COVID and a target role. His pins are tremendous, and I've talked about the Harden kid and her potential from day one. I think that in the middle of the court they're as good as anybody, and I think the setting is does a nice job, and they sprinkle in enough ball handling, and Carlin Mills taking care of the backcourt that they're just going to be tough to beat.
Yep. All right, well that's it.
Well, folks, hopefully,
Interesting show.
The governor changing the rules a little bit. Hopefully, get out and watch a little bit of volleyball. And sorry about the technical difficulties. That's all on him. Probably an HSE fan taking down his tower. I wouldn't blame him. But until next week, be good sports fans.